Well, hello, good morning everybody. Welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I'm back and I hope you guys are doing fantastic out there. This video today, I'm gonna go through a Coleman Model 500a that was built in April of 1960. Hopefully you can see that date stamp right there. So I've already noticed a couple things that are wrong with this stove. This lever is out of just one of the regular holes on the side. It's not coming out of this high hole it's supposed to come out of. I'm also noticing that this one is missing a couple of the nuts which hold the cage on. Now I love this model of stove. I had one I did a rebuild on, I did a video. That one was from 1941 and that was a Model 500. The reason I picked this one up, the 500A, is because this one has a standard fuel cap. First step that I like to do is I'll give it a couple pumps here. And I just want to feel what the pump feels like. I'm also holding my thumb against this to see if it's going to push back, which if it does, it's telling me that the check valve is bad, which in my case right now, it's not pushing back. So the pump feels okay. I'm noticing that there's no little clip that's usually on here that holds this thing on. But what I'm really searching for right now is this cap, and I want to see if I developed any pressure. So I'm going to listen very closely. I did hear a little bit of pressure coming out of this fountain. So I'm looking at the cap itself and I want to see how that looks on the inside. And it appears that the gasket is in decent shape. This valve turns freely. This doesn't turn because it's in the wrong orientation. So let's make sure that there's no fuel in this stove. Nothing in there, so that's good. I'm going to go ahead and start taking these nuts off here, and we're going to tear this thing down, and hopefully by the time this video is over we will have gone through this thing, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I'll get this thing running, because I certainly like this model of stove. It's one of my favorites. So I'm noticing that the cage is in pretty good shape, but it's missing two of those nuts. That's no problem. I can make a trip down to my local hardware store and get a couple nuts for it. No big deal. And anytime I buy a new stove, I always like to go through and see what's going on with it. Especially when I buy something off of eBay. So that top comes off. Nothing's broken or anything like that. I just need two more nuts. No problem. So the next thing I want to do is I want to just break this loose right here so that I don't have to do that after I take this off. So once I take this clamp off, I want this to be already loose. So while it's already secure to the stove, I'm going to go ahead and just loosen this just a little bit. Boy, that is tight. I think I might need to back that up. Let's back this up and then we'll loosen this a little bit. Okay, it doesn't need to be crazy loose. Then I'll loosen this nut here. Just my first impression, I feel that a lot of these things have been over tightened. They're too tight. It's almost like somebody tried to repair this thing and it might have had some leaks or something. So instead of investigating what the leaks were caused from, it appears that they just tightened the crap out of everything until it quit leaking. So I don't know how this experience is going to be going through this stove. So I'm going to pull this down and everything looks okay there. Now I'm going to find this nut above it and pull that one, and this generator will come right out. Now the individual that I bought this from told me that they had put a new generator on this. That does not look like a new generator. Apparently they were not being forthcoming with me. But that's sometimes what you get when you purchase things off of eBay. Now, the thing that I'm looking for right now is the needle. Right there on the tip. I want to make sure that that needle there is in good condition. And it is. I'm also going to drag this 4/0 steel wool. I'm going to drag this needle through and just remove any carbon that might be on this needle, this whole thing. And I don't see a lot of carbon on here, so it's fairly clean. It feels okay. I mean, I'm looking at this as I turn the dial, and there's like a weird smell. Like they must have used oil or something on this thing. It's kind of a different smell that it has. It doesn't smell like it's had fuel through it. It smells like oil. So I'm just looking at these things in an effort to kind of build a plan, you know, a game plan of repairing this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and take this packing nut off, and I want to see if the packing is in place. Just while I'm going through the stove, you know, I might as well just take a look while I'm in here, right? So we'll pull this out. The needle comes out of the housing here. I want to see if there's going to be airflow through this piece. So getting a little compressed air. I definitely have air coming through there. Let's plug that and see if it comes out the bottom. And it does. So that's a good sign that this piece of brass has no problems. So I'm happy about that. So I'm looking down in here and I can see the packing, and it looks like it's in decent shape. The needle is clean. The tip of the needle is not broken. Everything looks okay so far. So I'll set that back there where it's going to be safe, and we'll continue on. What I'd like to do is pull these 3 screws if possible. I'm not going to get crazy after it though. If they don't come off easily, I'm just going to skip it and pull these 2 if possible, and maybe get to this manifold from underneath. But let me go ahead and give it a try anyway, and hopefully I'll get these off. Sometimes they go and sometimes they don't. Nope. That one's a big no. And that one broke loose. Okay, so let's try this other one. I just want to be very careful with it because I don't want to accidentally break this off and then I have a bolt stripped, you know, broke off inside. So I got to be real careful here. Take my time and just be nice and easy about it. It is turning. It's just turning very slowly. This one is doing good. Alright, let's heat that up. Okay, let's try that. See if that's enough heat to get this screw out without damaging anything. It is turning, it's just really slow. And I'm taking my time. I am not in a hurry here. Okay, it finally broke loose. So I'm definitely going to need to make a trip to the hardware store for sure. So yeah, this is pretty good condition. Nothing wrong there. It's got a little bit of rust on the bottom, which is, that happens. And these burner rings, looks like they're all there. But they are pretty dirty. So I have 2 more screws right here on the side, one there and one there. I'm going to go ahead and try to take those off. And that one's loose, so that's good. What about this one? Okay, that one's loose, so good. That makes me happy. It doesn't cost much to replace these. I just got to run them down to the hardware store and get a couple nuts and a couple more screws. So this comes off of the tank. Then you got these two on the bottom. I want to make sure that I blow air in here and make sure that there's no spider webs or mud daubers or anything. So you might see something fly out of this area here. Yep, little rust and stuff. Everything looks okay for so far. Again, the major thing that I noticed was this is in the wrong hole here. It's supposed to be in this higher hole, and it looks like they messed that up. Okay, so just for the reference, the fuel line comes up here, and that one does come out of that higher hole. So I was right in my thinking. They must have gotten in a hurry with that collar and just shoved it through. But yeah, no problem there. Put it in the vise, and we'll take a look at all this stuff here. Secure, there we go, got a nice turn on it. Always got to be careful when you're working on this stuff. Never want to damage anything. So yeah, it looks like they put brand new paint on it and tried to sell it. I'm kind of frustrated that the person said that it had a brand new generator, because obviously that's not the truth. I just wish people could be honest, you know. It doesn't have a clip for the pump, so I should be able to just yank this straight out. And we are looking at a leather pump cup, which appears to be in good condition. Let's take the air stem out, and then what we'll do is we'll pull that check valve out, and we'll take a look at that too. Yeah, these are nice stoves, so hopefully I'll be able to get that going. That's one of the large air stems, as you can see. So on my check valve removal tool, I need the larger shaft, so that would be the one that's in it right now. There you get to see down inside. It's got a little bit of dirt and stuff down there, but I'm noticing that the check valve is not like all beat up, so that's good. I want to pull it out and see what the check valve looks like. Check valve is a very important part in the stove, so I want to make sure everything is good to go. Just put this tool down in there. Okay, let's see if we can pop this thing loose. There we go. So we'll take a look at that. This thing is dirty. So I'm also gonna feel down inside of here and make sure that there's no scratches or anything that feels bad, and I don't feel anything bad in there. So let's listen. I can hear that ball dancing around, so that's a good feeling. That's a good sound. So this thing, everything looks okay. Let's take a look at the valve itself. We want to make sure that the fuel and air tube, that the little pin comes out of the bottom when we're aimed to the right here. This is bent too. So we'll aim it to the right. You can see the little pin came out there. So now let's turn it straight down, and then let's turn it to the left. So that's working. So to the right is, so that's everything there is working the way it should. When I go to this side, the little pin gets in the way, then it gets out of the way. So fuel and air tube, the little stem inside looks to be working, but we're gonna go ahead and take this off, take a closer look. It doesn't look like this thing's been taken apart in a while. So I just want to go through and make sure that things aren't damaged, things are cleaned up, and I want to also check and see that I'm getting air through this air inlet right here. Otherwise the fuel and air tube doesn't do anything. So I'm gonna put a little air here, I'm going to plug the bottom, and hopefully I'll get air coming out of these two side holes, which I did. I could see it. But it's not much. So there's like a lot of corrosion and stuff around that. Yeah, that's a little bit of a concern actually. Yeah, I'm definitely going to need to clean these parts up. They're pretty dirty. So it's probably going to be taking a bath in vinegar or citric acid. Let's take a look at this brand new generator. Generator looks okay. Is the spring going to come out? Yes. And let's take a look at that spring. It's got some carbon buildup on it right here. Hopefully you can see that. See all that carbon on that spring? So it's not very clean. So even though the fella said it was a brand new generator, I just don't like dishonesty. That's not too cool, you know. Look through there. You can see the light, and the walls of this is clearly not a brand new generator. So on that nozzle you can see light through it. Hopefully you're picking that up on the camera. There you can see. So that's a good sign. We can also take this little needle, try to insert that in there, right in the middle of that nozzle there. You can see the needle there. So that's good. So the generator, even though it's not brand new, it's not in terrible shape. It looks like it's salvageable. Now this stem is bent, so it's like they just shoved this thing together. You know, it's kind of crazy. I'm gonna blow through this fill tube and see if I feel any air coming out here, which I do. So that's good. That tells me that the fuel line is good. So we'll put some air. Yep, you saw that? Yep, I got air coming through that, so that's good. So it looks like things are okay. Okay, let's heat these bad boys up and see if we can't get them loose. Alright, let's give this a shot. Oh yeah, there we go. Good deal. Let's try this one. Yeah, there we go. Thank goodness. Let's see, that bad boy is probably going to be hot. And we'll take this cover off. Yay! Look at that. There's a spider nest in there. This cover is not in bad shape, so it's good that I have all this stuff off. Now I can clean it all up and start putting it back together. And right now I'm just cleaning some of these parts in a little bit of vinegar with the toothbrush, and it's doing a pretty good job. It turns them a little bit of a pink color, but if you have like a metal brush, it'll clean it up. But I don't mind the pink color. It's just a color. It doesn't bother me at all. I just want these parts to be nice and clean. You can see the check valve looks a lot better. These parts have been in this vinegar probably about, I don't know, 20-30 minutes, and it's doing a pretty good job. The generator is looking a lot better, so I'm happy about that. I don't see much, you know, corrosion around the outside of the generator tube. It's actually pretty clean, so I'm happy with how these parts are looking. Let's take this 4/0 steel wool to this generator a little bit and see if we can clean that. Get it nice and purty. Make it look like the new generator that he said that he put on there. That's looking a lot better. So I'm going to go ahead and finish with these, and then I'm going to rinse them in water. And I did go to the hardware store and I found this hardware. I got stainless steel. I had to get machine bolts that have these types of heads. Couldn't get the type that I needed, but that's what I got, and it'll work fine. I also got a tap here, 10 by 32, and I'm going through all the holes on the manifold, just kind of making sure that the holes are cleaned up. So I'm going through all these holes on the manifold, making sure everything is ready to go so that I can insert those stainless steel pieces into here. Let me go ahead and get started in reassembly. So we'll start with this piece right here. We're going to get our nail polish. I always like putting nail polish on my threads. I think that'll help make sure that they're easy to take out in the future. So we'll put this one on right here. Like I said, these screws, they're going to look a little bit different. So we got that on there. Now we'll get these burner rings, and they have to alternate between flat, corrugated, flat, corrugated, flat, corrugated, and then on the top we're going to put this plate. So this is going to go just like so. Now I like this because it has this little divot in it, and this is for preheating the generator. It's very, very nice that they put that in there. So we'll just set these down right there, and we'll get these screws started, and then we'll kind of center everything before we finalize tightening those. And these burner rings were really dirty, so I normally don't do a lot with the burner rings, but I'm glad that I did in this case. It really needed it. So let's get that second one going here. And I'll center all that up here in just a second. And as you can see, it's got a little bit different of a look now that I've got different looking hardware, but I wanted to go with stainless steel because I didn't want this thing having problems. So now I'm just going to kind of center these rings, make sure that they're all kind of in place where they need to be. Where's my little screwdriver? There it is. Just get them all lined up nice and pretty, because that's going to affect what kind of flame we get out of this burner. So I think that looks pretty good. Just want to make sure they're all lined up as good as possible. And then tighten these two down. Running that tap down on the threads sure made it nice, because these screws are turning very easily. These don't need to be super tight or anything like that. Just need to snug them up. So now we'll attach this to this plate. Just like this. I didn't really clean this plate up too much. And we're going to use two small screws here on the back side. There it is. Let's find it. Where is it? There's one. I love fixing things. It's always such a relaxing hobby. And it's looking pretty good. So we've got that connected. We'll set that aside for now. And let's go ahead and thread this needle back onto the valve here. So this needle is nice and cleaned up, and it just threads right onto that valve, and then it doesn't take much to tighten this down. It doesn't have to be super tight. Just need to snug it up just a little bit. So that needle is ready to go, and it's really cleaned up well. So we'll set that aside. We'll go ahead and start working on the generator. So we're going to put the spring in. I like the way that fit. We're going to go ahead and put the jet on the generator. Some of you might be wondering why I put fingernail polish on this, and this is really a good place to put it if you're going to put it anywhere on the whole stove. Right there where that jet is a good place to put it, because it'll prevent it from flaring back at you. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and put this collar around, and that generator is pretty much ready to go. So from here we have the pump cup, and we're going to put that back on here. I cleaned this up a little bit. Didn't really need to take this piece apart, but I just wanted to make sure that that pump cup was nice and clean. So I went ahead and took it off. I wanted to make sure this plunger was good, so we'll go ahead and soak it with some more oil. So we'll just let that sit with that oil. From here, we've got the check valve. We'll go ahead and put the check valve back in the fount. So we'll just tighten that down. And I want to make sure that when I put this in, that I'm putting it in a clean hole. So everything is nice and clean in there. I don't have any scratches, or I don't see any problems in there. So I'm going to go ahead and put some paint on these threads. I think this is a good place to put it as well. Keeps things airtight. Without it, you know, I would think that air could slip past through them threads and create problems. So that's why I like putting it there too. So you got to be careful how much you tighten this. You don't want to over tighten this. You have a piece of brass going into a piece of steel. So especially if you're using a big wrench, you have a lot more leverage than you might think. So just be careful when you're putting that in there. You don't want to strip anything out or create any damage. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put the pump cup in. We're just going to kind of rotate that thing around. I'm going to put a couple drops of oil right on top of everything. About 4 drops there. And let's spin this around. And I didn't have the actual clip, so I made one. This is just a makeshift little clip that I made. This is to get me by until I can get one ordered. So don't laugh too hard, folks. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So let's bend this bad boy and get some curvature on it. So that's my little makeshift hook. That's the cool thing about these old units. Sometimes you can make parts with simple things around the shop. This is just baling wire that I had sitting around the shop. So all its job is to hold that pump together. So it doesn't need to be anything special. It's just a little clip, and that's all it's there for, is to hold everything together, and it looks like it's doing a good job. So now we're going to go ahead and put the fuel and air tube back on the valve. I cleaned the fuel and air tube. It was pretty dirty. I didn't clean any of this stuff here because there's a packing in there, and I didn't want to disrupt that packing. So we'll just stick that in there, slide that thing on, give it a little cinch there at the end. It doesn't have to be gorilla tight. These are brass parts. Wipe off the excess. Make sure that you don't get any of that inside where that air goes. So let's practice and make sure that we're turning. Okay, so that goes up, gets out of the way. That goes to the right, and it gets in the way. So that, when it's to the right, it's going to bring vapor, and when it's to the left, it's going to bring fuel. So we'll go ahead and paint this thread and put it right back in the fount. So let's just spin this around This does not have to be crazy tight, but I am going to put a little leverage on it, and let's see, I think I'll do, yeah, that might actually be pretty good right there. I just don't want to be in the way of this little lever. So let's turn it just a little more. My clocking might be off a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. So now we have this portion, and we have the collar. I didn't do anything with the collar. Remember, we have all these holes, and one of them is higher. The one that's higher goes right around this little area here. This little rod goes through, so let's kind of get that through there, and then we'll kind of mess around and try to get this other stuff in place. There we go. Something like that. So if you want to change your orientation, right now would be a good time to do it, because you don't want to wait until it's all done. But I think that's good enough for me. I mean, it's right there by the pump, the cap, and everything's right there together. So as far as I'm concerned, that looks good. So we'll set that down, and we will take this. We need this to correspond here. So we'll set that down. We'll get our 2 new screws. These are a little bit longer than the previous ones. So I'm going to use those previous lock rings, those little lock washers that I had, because these screws are just a little bit longer. Now stabbing these in and getting them to land right, it might be a little difficult here, so don't laugh too hard, folks. I'm going to try to get this stuff lined up. I'm looking straight down, and I'm hoping to stab this right in that hole down in there. And look at that, I got lucky first try. Let's try the other one. Pays to be a winner, folks. Let's try this other one. Okay, we got those. Now we just tighten these down. I'm just kind of holding this in place. Doesn't have to be gorilla tight. This, you know, we're not holding down a 1-ton dually here. We're just putting a stove together, so it doesn't have to be crazy tight. I don't mind the look of those different fasteners. It doesn't look bad to me. They are different, but hey, it is what it is. No problem. So let's tweak that a little bit more, just a hair. Don't want to tweak it too much because this will bend. I'm just going nice and easy on it. Okay, now we got the cage. And this is the funny part. So I needed the 8x32s. They didn't have them, so I mean they did, but they're square. They're not octagon or whatever. They're not 6-sided or whatever. But they're still going to work. So I'll go ahead and put the cage on. I like this cage better than the previous model. The 500, they just have single bars, and the 500a, they're bent and it's 1 bar. I like this better. It seems like a better cage in my opinion. So we'll just land that guy down there. Let's see if we can get it just right. So let's get one of them started. We're almost there, folks. We're actually doing pretty good. So we'll get that one. Let's go to this opposite corner back here. I'm really excited about this stove. Very much. Okay, let's do this one. You know, I really enjoy tinkering around with these kind of things, and it brings me a lot of happiness when you got something that doesn't work, and then you get to work on it and go through, and then you get to see, hopefully we'll get to see it work. It's just a fun experience, you know. And especially when you get something off of eBay, you don't know if it's ran or if it works or if it don't, or if it does it leak. Is the fount even good? I don't know any of those answers, but we're going to find out in this video. We're all going to find out together. So now that I got those, I'm going to just go ahead and tighten them down. Don't want to over tighten them or nothing. Just want to get them a little bit. The way they make these older stoves, to me it just seems like they run so much better, and they're so, in my opinion, some people say that the new ones are easier to work on, but I think these older ones are easier to work on myself. They have parts that can be fixed, you know, like the generator, for example. You can rebuild a generator on these things. The newer ones, the generators are a lot more finicky. We're going to put that on there. Let's tighten that down a little bit. Make sure we spin that thing and that it's in a good spot. We don't want to tighten it yet. We're going to just stab that in very carefully. Start threading. And remember, this is a packing under here, so this nut only has to be as tight as the fill that you get, the tension that you get out of this knob. So don't over tighten that. But I am going to go ahead and snug this down just a little bit right here. This nut that holds the generator on. Now what I want to look for is when I close this valve, I want to look and see if I can see that needle. And I think I can see the needle. Yeah, I can see the needle. So that's good. The needle is centered and it's in there. So that's a good thing. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the stove now. There we go. Put the generator in the hole there and then tighten this one down. Then I'll finish that packing nut. I just wanted to put this here so that it's hanging on to something so I can mess with that packing nut. This is a flared fitting, so as you tighten this little nut, it's going to tighten everything and it's not going to have any leaks. I just got to bend it real careful not to bend the pipe itself. Just get it lined up and then tighten this down. If you need a wrench for this, I believe it's a 7/16. Don't want to overdo it, but you definitely want it nice and snug. Otherwise you could have leaks out of this area, so we don't want that. There we go. Now we're starting to get tight. There we go. There it is. Okay, now at this point we're going to go ahead and finish this packing nut. I'm going to tighten that down just a little bit. If you do that packing nut too tight, the knob will be hard to turn, but that feels pretty good actually. The fuel that we're going to use today is just low octane gasoline, so we'll just fill this bad boy up. And this is old gas. It's been in the shop for quite a while, so it might not have the BTUs as new gas, but it's alright. I just want to burn this gas and get rid of it. Pull that funnel out and it's nice and full. From here we're going to put this cap back on. Tighten that down. Let me get this fuel out of the way. Okay, making sure that this valve is off, we're going to go ahead and pump this up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's go 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One more for good measure. And I'm pushing my thumb. It's got a little bit of pushback. So sometimes if you rattle the fuel, that check valve, see it stop pushing back. So close that air stem and it locks the air from coming in or out. Let me move these tools out of the way. You don't have to preheat the generator, but it makes it a little nicer for firing it up. Heat the manifold, heat the generator. You're not going to hurt anything. Oh yeah, make sure that this lever is in the right position, not to the left. So to the left would be liquid fuel like that, and to the right is going to be vapor. So we have it to the right. Let's heat up this generator. And whenever you can open up this valve and see, we'll introduce a little bit of vapor. And there you can see it fired up for the first time. Let's turn the torch off. We'll just let that heat up for a minute. That's pretty cool. Open that up. Very interesting. Not a bad little flame for the first time. It's kind of neat to see that it actually works. Now, I think the generator's probably warm enough. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this lever over to the left and let the liquid feed in. I love these old classic stoves. 1960. Once this manifold and everything gets hot and that generator gets good and hot, we're going to see a lot better performance out of this thing. This thing is working really good. I'm not seeing any leaks anywhere. I'm not feeling anything bad. So it looks pretty cool. Very happy to see this thing running. What a cool feeling. So I see a little bit of smoke. It's some of that paint and stuff melting off that fingernail polish. Very cool. It's a lot of power to it. These stoves are awesome. Okay, it's time for a boil test. Now, I was making candles in this pan, so it's got beeswax in it. So it's probably going to get all waxy and stuff, so don't panic, folks. There's just beeswax in there. Let's go ahead and crank this thing up. Get it nice and hot. Get a good flame going, and let's set that on. See how long it takes to boil 32 ounces of room temperature water. We're going to see how this stove performs. This is my favorite part of the test, of the video I should say, because I get to see this thing in action. And as you can see, I'm doing it uncovered. I just want to be kind of like what I would be if I'm out in the woods. You know, I probably wouldn't have a cover on it out there. Plus, I just want to see how it performs under some fairly normal circumstances. There you have it, folks. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the time here pretty soon. We have reached a boil. So I'm going to say about 5 minutes and 45 seconds for a heavy rolling boil. That's pretty good actually, because it's like 18 degrees outside here in the winter. That thing is performing very good. Look at that flame. That is wonderful. That is absolutely fantastic. Let's go ahead and take a look at this flame control. See how that goes. That is such a beautiful flame. Once all that cast iron and stuff gets hot, that produces a wonderful flame. So let's look at this control. You got lots of control. These things, I mean, they just don't build them like they used to. These are absolutely fantastic. Get down to a simmer. There we go. That's nice. Put that on and let it just simmer away. Look at that. That is fantastic. I love these stoves. Look at that. It brought it right back to a boil from a little light simmer. Let's crank that bad boy up again. Let's get some heat there. Wow. What a performer. For as old as it is, I mean, it's doing absolutely fantastic. That flame is really pretty. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off and see what happens. There it is. It's dead. That is a beautiful blue flame. This one's flame looks funny because it's not hot like this one yet. It's still heating up. 1941, 1960. Cool thing about these old stoves is once you heat up all this cast iron and the generator's hot, these things stay hot and they light up like you saw very easily. Those machine screws, they look a little funny, but I kind of like it because it gives the stove character. It gives it my stamp, right? I wish my hardware store locally would have had the right kind of hardware, but that's what I had to get. So folks, you know, that boil time of 5 minutes and 45 seconds, let me tell you, it's like 17 degrees outside. So in the shop here, it's probably 45, 50 degrees in here. That water was probably a little bit on the cold side. Plus the fact that this fuel, this gasoline that I put in it was old fuel. That gas has been in this shop for a long time, probably a year. So I think the stove, for given all the circumstances that we're looking at, I think the stove is performing absolutely fantastic. So folks, with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I want to say thank you for joining me today. Please feel free to leave your comments down below, like this video, share this video, and until next time, I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Now I have a Coleman 500 and a Coleman 500a. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.